Well, it shows what a great team we are. We're actually right on the clock. We got the tower done as fast as I think people could actually build it, and we've actually been through our presentation on record time. So we've got about 15 minutes. I think we have some facilitators around the room with microphones, so we're going to open up the floor now to everybody to ask, and you can ask any question you want except one. And I think you know that. So whoever would like to ask a question to any of our panelists, please put your hand up. Let's start with this gentleman over here on the aisle.
What's the safety record like for the construction project?
Oh, sorry, could you speak up, sir?
What's the safety record like for the construction project?
I don't, you know, actually, I personally don't know where we are on that issue right now.
What was the question? What was the safety record? I think I know that. It was, I believe there was one death. Somebody fell 2 or 3 floors. Everybody hear that? 2 deaths,
so
one
there might be
suicide.
2 fatalities at this point. Next question? Perhaps over here in the middle?
One is suicide. That's incredible for a building this tall.
A gentleman in the striped shirt standing here in the aisle.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm Gill from RJC in Vancouver. A question for the structural engineer. If this would have been an office building, do you think you would have gone to a steel structure? Was the decision for concrete because it was primarily hotel residential?
Well, if this were a steel or an office building, it's likely. We currently have a proposal for in Korea for a 550-meter tower. It's mixed-use office and hotel and residential, and it would probably be composite. A lot of times for the office space for the long-span floors, steel is pretty efficient. But then when you get to the residential, I mean, this thing. Concrete was the way to go. Adrian was talking about when we did the Tower Palace 3 in Korea, we were pushing pretty hard to do an all-concrete building, but at that time, there had been a few years earlier, there had been a collapse of a 2-way flat plate structure, so the Korean market was hesitant about all concrete, so we did composite. But generally, when you do residential, it's hard to beat all concrete unless you have foundation problems, which we didn't have here.
Let's go back in the back section down here, and then the gentleman on the aisle after.
My name is Nagraj, practicing engineer from Germany. I have 3 questions, one directed to architect. During your design or development phase, did you consider harnessing the stack effect wind flow right through the building? And for example, axial turbine in the basement and using this air to flush out the used air, etc. And the second question is the structural engineer. If you could lose a few words on the outrigger connection in the reinforced concrete building. And the final one would be 200 years from now, just say double the lifetime of the building, if the future generation decides to dismantle the building, did you consider the possibility of or the process how to dismantle the building? Thank you.
I think the first question was, did we consider harnessing the stack effect wind because it's coming down? No, I don't believe we did. And one of the things we've learned from this project, when you go to the top of the building now, it's about 10 degrees cooler than it is at grade. And, you know, in retrospect, we probably should have developed a mechanical system that drew the air from the top of the building down into the mechanical floors. We would have gotten a lot of free cooling that way. And we could use the reverse stack effect to assist us in that movement of air. So it's one of the things for future towers, potentially.
Okay, I'm not sure I heard the question clearly, but I'll answer what I thought I heard. The issues of when you have tall vertical concrete, you have dimensional change due to creep and shrinkage. And what we tried to do is we certainly did a lot of studies of that and the effects, but one of the things that we did is we kept all the concrete and all the vertical elements the same concrete mix. So you had the same material and all. And then those outside walls and things, we kept the same volume to surface ratio of the columns as we did have for the shear walls. So the volume to surface ratio relates to how quickly it'll dry and dry out and shrink, so that you have a very, very balanced system, so that the amount of differential movements you're going to get is like, it's very small numbers. And then we did studies of, shall we say, parametric studies to say if there's how much difference assume there's a difference between the perimeter concrete and the interior concrete, and size the outriggers for that. But it was we were very, very conscious of how we proportioned the structure to minimize any creep and shrinkage issues.
Last part of that interesting question was, how do we demolish this 400 years from now? Should we have to?
A headache ball?
I think we'll have to invent the technology by then. Hopefully the next generations will be smarter. Let's take a gentleman with the blue shirt on the aisle.
I think this is a legitimate question. When will you announce the height of the building?
Mr. Alabbar, sir?
I must say that's a very smart question. Can I just put some facts that I forgot to mention in my speech, and then I'll come to your question. I just want to clarify for our colleagues who are not from Dubai. The city has 205 nationalities living in this city, so it's pretty unique mix of people. Our site, by the way, we really were not excited about doing the tall building if we don't have big site around it, because that's where the value is. So our site is about close to 17 million square feet. That's the total site. We have over 50 plots, 55 sites to build, and that is 80 million square feet. Today we are probably about 40 million built, and we have 40 million under construction and design and tendering, and we build everything on site. Roads, landscape, fiber optics, sewage, you name it, it's all out there, including our new trolley system. The site has 2 miles boulevard competing with Champs-Élysées on width and quality of material and the rest of it, and we're all haggling over how to improve it even further. Just to let you know, on commercial basis, what's the business model of this building? We've started selling, unfortunately, too quickly at about $1,000 square foot. And unfortunately, in 2 nights, we sold $1 billion US in 2 nights. So we're selling $500 million US a night out of our sales center when we're just doing piling. Is it the piling work, right?
Yeah, just piles.
Today, prices, secondary market, I think, on some of the units that we have, we sell selectively at about $2,000 a square foot minimum. Our Armani apartment, we sold at $3,500 a square foot. And our offices, we've sold an office on one of our, not top floor, but one of the high floors, and we sold that also at $3,000, I think at about $4,000 a square foot. And we do have one building which is called the famous Annex building, which is a beautiful 7-story building, which is just adjacent to the tower, overlooking the big lake. I think that probably we probably bid it out. I think we might achieve $5,000 a square foot for these for that office space. The site, of course, has the famous Dubai Mall, which is 12 million square feet build-up. It's built. We should open 31st of August. It has a total leasable space of about 4 million square feet, over 1,400 stores. The challenge is to renovate all these stores at the same time and open them, but leasing is very strong. In fact, we are done almost. We have over 15,000 car parks in that shopping mall. Of course, the other thing is that how to control quality. That's why actually we only sold about a year ago only 2 sites, and we are not planning to sell any site. We like to control building quality. We like to control architecture, and at the same time, as this building gets finished and cladded, the value of all our sites is going up. Of course, we're doing a fabulous fountain with wet design to install the next generation, so-called the famous Bellagio fountain, which is incredible. As you spoke about change in technology, what have changed in that as well. So we think that as we finish the site and clean it up, We think that just the value is dramatic in this. Going back to your question, sir, about when will you announce the height? To be honest with you, I really don't know. Honest, should we? I mean, if you were in my place, would it?
Bill says we can go higher.
I think we're just going to have to let
But you know,
Guinness.
to be really very honest, I think height is very important. But actually, what we deliver to our customer is absolutely the most important. I mean, you know, to be very honest with you, we've fired our landscape architect when we were just about to start awarding the contract because we don't think it was good enough. We don't think it really reflected who we are and what this Burj is all about, and it doesn't reflect all the effort and the reputation of all the consultants, the team players who played the big part in the Burj. It's not fair to them. So I think we've got a fabulous design, incredible quality in our landscape. And you know what? That's what majority of the people are going to see. So that's I think we're all set and we're moving that way. I thank you for your question, but it's a good question.
I think
But I must tell you that, you should ask me about what are we doing about the art, for example. I think that's a very important. I mean, the amount of work that's going on now into the art that we are planning to put in the building, the art we are planning to put on our boulevard, the huge team working on this, and again, to respect the spirit of our customer and our city. Thank you.
Okay, we got time for about maybe 2 or 3 more questions. This gentleman here.
This question is for Mr. Alabbar and Mark yourself. What was the single most challenge that you had to face building the tallest building, and how did you mitigate it?
What's the most challenging?
The single most challenge that you faced in building this building as the owner.
I didn't hear that. What's the most challenging?
Single most challenging issue that we had to tackle? From a design issue or any issue?
Well, I think design is something, we're developers. Structure and risk and buildability is something that we have to trust our consultants to do well. So we do worry about that a little bit. But I think for us, for our team, it was the ability to move on with it and be able to make a minimum loss on the total building commercially. So how will the marketing technique work? And I must say that our marketing team, they've done an unbelievable job. I mean, if you've seen our launch, it was shocking to a point where I left town. It was, everybody wants a part of this building. I mean, come on, this is unbelievable. So I would say, yes, you can do a good job, but I think you need good people, creative, daring, dedicated, to really do it so well. So commercial aspect of it was a big challenge for us because we're just very, very worried that the city is not used to these prices. The city, I mean, the Middle East is not used to $1,000 square foot when we launched. So that was a big risk. The second risk is that we started, and I have not signed our deal with Giorgio Armani, and I needed a signature. I will not bring in the same old 5-star story. This is not good. This is not special for us. But they all called on us, and we said, sorry. It's not special. It's the same old thing. It's ground floor, the names, and I have a lot of respect for them. But that was also another risk that we've taken.
Thank you.
Let's the lady over here on the front.
Mr. Alabbar, can you hear me? Mr. Alabbar, I had a question for you. I'm Brenda Calvin from Las Vegas, and I sell high-rise condominiums, and I was interested in your information on the sales, and I wondered if you had a sense of how many people intend to live in the Burj Dubai on a full-time basis.
Well, in our, I guess in the States you call them flippers, yeah? I think our market has about a percentage of about 30% to 35%. But what we've discovered in the Burj is that nobody wants to let go. Nobody, because they say this is very special. So I would say 20% probably people who've moved the product around in trading. Is this number 100% correct? Maybe. But in our market, I must tell you that generally in the condo market. The traders, we call them, just to show them some respect at least, that they are also a big percentage, just like during the boom time in the States. Why? Because it's human greed. Everybody would like to flip and make a dollar, the way we buy and sell shares anyway. So I would say 25, 30%. But today, as they see it, coming up and shining, I think it's becoming very, very valuable. Nobody wants to let go.
Thank you. We're almost out of time. I've got one gentleman back here, another on the aisle there, and this will be the third last question. So if we could go back here.
Very good presentation. There's a lot to take in, a lot of technical data. But just as a matter of interest, did you ever work out how long it took the pizzas to get delivered?
How long?
Yeah, actually,
And if it gets there cold before.
we had a 60-second policy on the elevator that no ride on any elevator could be more than 60 seconds. So I think we've got our fastest ones that go from 0 to 125 in 60-second one trip. That's going up about 4 floors a second at peak speed, but you won't feel it. Actually, one of the interesting things I learned is that you can't fall fast enough, otherwise you become weightless in these elevators. So the poor pizza guy is going to have a harder ride on the way down than the way up.
As long as it's an Armani pizza, it's pretty quick.
Okay.
I'll just make a comment here because I see Ali and I forgot to mention. Ali is our chief executive and chairman of Turner Middle East. And one of the challenges that we had is that I'm quite keen on learning. I love to learn. And the idea of getting someone to know how to build this building and then they get away with it, I was not comfortable with it. I'm a developer, I need knowledge. So actually it was a good deal that about 2 years ago we bought 50% of Turner Middle East. So actually the knowledge is still in-house. So I've never told Ali this, but this is the real why we went and bought 50% of your company, sir. And they're doing a fabulous job. I respect you, Ali, you and your team, and our contractor, our consultant, they're just first class.
Okay, second last question back here, and then the final question down in the front.
Hey, this is a very exciting and unique project, and probably the first time in human history put people asleep on the 150 floor high. And I have 2 questions directly related to that. When's the safety, what is any special consideration for the emergency execution for people asleep on that 150 floor? And also for structurally, what is the comfortability? What is the horizontal movement at that level? Did people feel is reasonable for people to live and sleep there?
What was the first one? Exiting at the top and the exiting has a series of refuge floors at each mechanical floor, so that you come down the stairs. There are 3 stairs in the building that all come down. You come to a certain point, you can transfer at that exit, at that area of refuge, which gives you a safe pocket to be in if there's an emergency situation. That's fairly standard, I think, in super tall buildings now. The other one is the acceleration of movement.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting. When you start these projects, I remember we got our first round of data from RWI before we did the reshaping of the building. It was like, whoa, okay, we got to take care of this thing. And in the end, as the forces went down, down, and down, the accelerations went down with them, okay? And early in the project, we thought we would allow for a damper if one needed to be built. So we set across an area of building at the top of the building that we could put a damper in if we needed to. It looks like we don't need it, okay? That we're below the criteria which Mark referred to earlier, comfortably below that without a damper. And so that makes us kind of happy because instead of having an area of the floor high in the building that's cost money to maintain, it could turn into revenue-making area for telecommunications or whatever. It's also interesting that at the top of the residential, the numbers are so low that it may not be perceptible at all, even in a big storm, because of at the highest residential, I think it's like I want to say 6 or 7 milligauss. It's like that small. at a 10-year recurrence. So it was, it's a pretty quiet building.
I think Bill took it as a personal challenge not to have a damper in this building. It's almost like putting a Band-Aid on it or something.
Yeah, it's like, if you can reduce the forces, I mean, that's where you make your money. And then just the accelerations, because F equals ma, Newton taught us that. So if you get the forces down, your accelerations naturally go down on their own.
Of course, we thank Bill for saving us money and giving us more leasable space. Last question, then we'll let everybody take the break before the next session.
George Singos from Bovis Lease to Mr. Alabbar and to the rest of the team. I think it's been a fantastic presentation and a great achievement in terms of where you have gotten till now. I do hope this question isn't going to come across as being critical, but my question is, we've been talking about sustainability throughout this whole conference over the last couple of days, and I understand that the design of this building was probably a little bit ahead of the whole sustainability movement across the world. My question is, ideally it would be fantastic to have had an integrated product and built sustainability into the design. Where you are now, it is probably difficult, I would say, to bring some of these integrated efficiencies into sustainable design. What are the thoughts in terms of going forward to try to bring some sustainability initiatives to the Burj? And the second part of my question is, fabulous buildings in Dubai, the infrastructure to keep these buildings alive over the next 5, 10, 15 years. I see a great challenge there in terms of building the infrastructure to keep these buildings going.
Do you mind, what do you mean by building the infrastructure?
Infrastructure in terms of water, power, these buildings are big buildings, yeah?
Adrian?
In terms of sustainability, there is one major innovation here. We have a condensation collection system that collects the condensate that's generated by the high humidity and the cooling of the tower. We can fill up to 20 Olympic-sized swimming pools per year with that fresh water that we collect. We're using that for irrigation purposes and gray water purposes. We did investigate photovoltaics at the top of the building on the spire. At that time that we investigated it, the only photovoltaic systems available were the silicone chips, the slices, which need to maintain it needs to be kept clean, and that was a huge challenge for us on the top 40 floors of the building. And the payback was estimated by the SOM engineers as about 100 years. So at that level, it didn't make economic sense. Since then, photovoltaics have improved. There are a number of other systems both available now and new ones coming up that would be much more cost effective, but too late for this particular building. The entrance piece is a double wall building. The three pavilion pieces are all double wall, ventilated through the cavity. Those are highly sustainable pieces. The office building is has sunscreens as shading devices. We didn't want to shade the tower because of the maintenance issues that occur on a very tall building. We wanted to keep everything vertical without any horizontal ledges whatsoever. That was an important criteria at that time. When we first came here 3 years ago, it was very dusty, and maintenance on these super tall buildings is absolutely critical. So there are a number of challenges in terms of making buildings highly sustainable. We do know more about it now than we did when we designed the building 4 years ago. And you live and learn.
But it was very highly efficient skin.
Yeah, the skin is very efficient. It's a 34% shading coefficient, a very high efficiency, double glazed, low E glass and skin. And the exterior mullions give about 20% shading, 20 to 30% shading on the western and eastern suns.
One of the things that the city have just finished drafting special regulation for this purpose, and in fact our team is on the panel. So what we did is that we've allocated the budget actually, and we did an audit almost a year ago of what can we do. So Fred Dewey, our executive director of development, I think he's somewhere around here. He actually did the audit, and we allocated the budget on top of the construction cost that Fred is working on to find ways and means to, because we know that this is an important subject, not only because we're going to be asked, but I think it's good for our society, it's good for our city. We'd like to build a building that has the right elements from all aspects, and that's why when I talk about quality, well, it covers all this. So still, I think he's quite a good percentage, but they will continue doing all they can to make sure that we go that direction. Because customers are asking these questions now too, which is something that we all have to keep in mind. In fact, we just have a new team out of our Newport Beach office in John Lang Home, actually is only working on programs for all of our buildings to go that route. Going to your question about infrastructure. Of course, in a small city like this, there's so much going on that infrastructure is a challenge. But I must tell you that on hard infrastructure like roads and bridges, I mean, we operate in 17 countries as a company. I've never seen bridges get built with the speed of what these people do here. How they do it, I can't believe it. So every time they open a bridge, I call the guy in charge of our road division in the city, and I say, I'm telling you one thing, I have a lot of respect for you and your team and what you do. So they move day and night, quick. And good quality construction too, so I salute the contractors. Now on water and electricity, water of course is fine. The city always runs on 30% idle capacity just for standby, but now of course they're moving all their desalination plants on the Indian Ocean just to make sure that not much is put on the Persian Gulf side. Power, of course, if you think of it, we are 200 kilometers away from the richest oil fields on earth, between Iran and Qatar. They're 200 kilometers away. So that is in hand. Maybe our build-up capacity is short a little bit because the development is moving so fast. Our annual growth of power consumption is 14%. One of the highest in the world. So these guys are working day and night to catch it. It's not something that we should say it's easy to solve, but the guys in charge, I must tell you, they live this thing day in, day out. I really thank you so much. This is a critical question. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much, everybody. I'd like to warm applause for our panelists, Mohamed Alabbar, Adrian Smith, and Bill Baker. And I'd like to thank everybody in the room for coming to listen to our presentation, and of course thank the council for hosting the event. Thank you very much.
kilometers away from the richest oil fields on earth. Between Iran and Qatar, 200 kilometers away. So that is in hand. Maybe our build-up capacity is short a little bit because the development is moving so fast. Our annual growth of power consumption is 15%, one of the highest in the world. So these guys are working day and night to catch up. It's not something that we should say it's easy to solve, but the guys in charge and still they live this thing day in, day out. I really thank you so much. It's a critical question.
Thank you very much, everybody. I'd like to warm applause for our panelists.
care about our discussion was